Many different stories emerge from the Monster Energy AUS-X Open, starting with the event itself and going into much bigger, deeper, more human topics, and we will tackle those in this edition of the Weege Show, coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. Got to do some TV, but more importantly, got a lot of quality bro down time with the riders, and I'll reveal some of the things I learned to you. It's all brought to you by Race Tech. You can get yourself a set of gold valves. There's a description underneath this video. You can send them an email. You can enter a chance to win. You already know by now, suspension will be plusher, better bottoming resistance, and more traction, all engineered and made in the USA thanks to Race Tech. So yeah, Jason Weigandt here in Australia. A couple things to note. Notice the very small equipment on the track, everything but a full-on bulldozer. There is a car park underneath this floor. That's a parking lot to us in the United States. They had to put jacks underneath this floor to support the dirt they were bringing in, to prove to the stadium folks they would not break their floor. They cannot bring a bulldozer out there, so they have everything but to try to build and then tear down this racetrack. This was absolutely huge for Australia. They moved the race from a much smaller building in Sydney the last couple of years to here. They went from about 14 or 15,000 people at previous AUS-X Opens in the small building in Sydney to 35,000 here in the big one in Melbourne, and they got a lot of buy-in from the local state government as well, which I think will pay big dividends promoting motorcycling and getting the government to believe it's a fun, safe, fair family sport well beyond just this race. So this was huge for the Australian folks. Chad Reed himself said he's, for 20 years, known that they've had these great, what they call AFL, that's Australian rules football, stadiums that you could potentially hold a race in, but it's never really happened until now. So this was huge. That's the easy angle. Now, as far as the racing is concerned, I can give you a little rundown, but hey, there's gonna be plenty of race coverage. Hey, this is my guy right here. This is Reed. Wait, is this the, yeah, that's right. Why are you in the back? Are you in jail?
This is the bakery van.
This is the bakery van. So the ladies were checking you out, and you thought they were checking you out, but they just thought you might have some
bread.
They wanted bread. Is this, tell me this is a left side stick shift. Is this a stick? Can I try it? I drive a stick every day, but I've never driven a left side. Let me give it a shot. I just need someone to do the shooting. Oh, this is brilliant.
Plus I'm short, Weege.
Move it back. Well, I might get the clutch a little easier with a little room. Now the problem is if I screw this up, there's motorcycles around. All right, left side stick. First we'll do a reverse.
We're in, we've got the handbrake on.
You gotta go like to the left.
Where's the handbrake back? What is this
that's
thing?
off. That's the
Oh
handbrake.
my gosh!
Lift off.
Nice handbrake of all time. Is this reverse? No. Yeah, I got it. Oh, you might want to close that door. Look behind me, make sure there's nothing back.
You're good, you're good.
All right. The goals we're gonna get in a second. Get far enough. Let's get first. Here's second. Yeah, left side stick. All right, I'm done. I did my job. Check the box. I drove a left side stick. Welcome to Australia. Good job in jail back there.
Thanks, man.
This is Yariv. He's the team owner for Penrite Honda, both championships, but it meant a lot more than just titles. This is a big race for Australia. I got an interview with him you can listen to as a podcast in a few days. Wow, that was the most Australian thing I did. I didn't even drink a Foster's while I was here. That's Australian for shifting gear. They've pretty much packed up down here. Not a lot of other people I'm gonna run into. Bikes have been crated. Let's go over to the Penrite setup over here. I'm gonna get run over by Yariv for this left side stick shift. Yeah, as far as the racing is concerned, I'll break it down like this. There's 3 main events. They're short races. The tracks, the 2 that I've gone to here in New Zealand, very slippery, so it breeds mistakes and crazy stuff happened. It wasn't just like, oh, anything could happen in a race scenario, cheapo hype. It was reality. Look. That's Chris Blose bike. He won the SX2 championship on Yariv's Penrite Honda team. It was down to Blose and another American, Josh Osby, who had a slight points lead going in. Pressure was on. Osby had every single type of problem you could have, from crashes and bike problems. That wiped out his title hopes. Blose, who's been through the championship wars many times in Motocross and certainly experienced and good at Supercross, ends up coming from behind in the championship to win that title. As for the big class, the 450 division, there is only Oh no, they did it. They changed Brayton's white #1, the non-points lead #1, to a championship #1. Here is how JB did it. He rode well under pressure. It was the same thing. Young Luke Clout had a small points lead, one on Brayton coming into this race. The very first lap of the first of 3 main events, Clout saw an opening on the inside on Brayton, tried to take it. The track was too slick. He lost the front end, and then the rest of his night was chaos. From there, Brayton rode solid under pressure as a veteran. Not only won the title, but he won the Monster Energy AUS-X Open. So Brayton's your 4-time now champ, bringing the Australian titles home. The Penrite Honda team wins both with American riders. I know you're saying, but didn't Jason Anderson race? Jason Anderson didn't win? No, he didn't. Jason Anderson got Chad Reeded. Yes, the legend of Chad Reed will just grow even stronger now. Because Chad Reed, who has barely ridden over the last couple of months, couldn't even really race in New Zealand because he had rib injuries left over from Paris, putting a new bike program together. He was not prepared at all. But all of a sudden here it's Australia and Chad Reed starts riding really well. He whole shot his heat race, led that for a while, and then he passes Brayton to lead early in the first of the 3 main events. Jason Anderson goes rumbling by because Jason Anderson's really good. No, I got that wrong. Anderson got the straight up whole shot. It was Reed that passed Brayton, and then Chad, after passing Brayton, gets a drive to the whoops and gets inside of Jason Anderson and block passes him and puts Anderson on the ground. Straight up, he caught him, he passed him. Anderson said, look, man, when I was younger, I probably would have been mad about that, but let's be honest, Jason Anderson has done some riders like that himself, so he kind of knows if you're gonna dish it out, you gotta take it. I think there was a thing a couple years ago where he hit Reed pretty hard, so felt like Reed kind of owed him one. And then Anderson said, hey, also I'm 26 years old now. I'm older, I'm more level-headed. I have fun at the races, win or lose. If I knock somebody down or someone knocks me down, I'm not gonna let it bother me. So that being said, it kind of set a theme. Anderson goes 7-1-1. The first race with the Reed takeout was a problem for him. Chad Reed rode excellent. He got 2nd behind Brayton in the first race. Brayton eventually tracked him down, and Chad was like a 5th, 6th place guy after that. Not bad, considering the condition he's in. And then we brought all those guys to the press conference. You've got Brayton, who's I think going on 35. Chad, who's 37, will be 38 next year. Blose, 32, winning that SX2 title. Anderson saying, I'm 26 now, I'm way more mature. Things have changed drastically in my life over the last year or 18 months. We also had Josh Hill, who was on the podium today, 3rd overall, talking about he retired, he came back to racing, so much more mature than he was. Dan Reardon, 3rd in the championship. He retired, came back to racing. He's in his 30s. All of these 30 plus or near 30 plus guys talking about what the experience of being a racer is like now that they are older. And it's, as Brayton says, the same cliche things. You enjoy it more, you have perspective more, and leave it to Reed, as usual, to wrap it up better than anybody else, to say, look, he was winning Supercross titles at 26. That should be the pinnacle of your life. But who at age 26 really knows who they are, really understands who they are as a person, to really soak up a championship moment like that properly? Nobody. Chad feels like now that he's married, and he has kids, and he's into his 30s, and now seeing the exit from being a Supercross racer, he understands things a whole lot more clearly than he did in his racing days. So while we get this narrative all the time that riders keep retiring early in this sport and we keep grinding people up, dude, that's like 3 people. All right, Carmichael retired early. Villapoto retired early. Dunge retired early. You know what those guys were doing? They were winning all the races all the time. They had an extreme level of pressure that is literally only going to be gone through by 1 guy every couple of years. You can't have 5 guys winning all the races all the time. That is a very rare circumstance. So, hey, 3 guys that eventually got to this standard of if they finished 2nd, there was a major problem. I mean, dude, I remember in 2017 writing a story after Dunge got a 4th saying, is there something wrong with Ryan Dungey? We all know what the standards get like when you win, 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 win. Okay, that's different for those guys. They retired early. The rest of the sport, we're seeing older riders than ever. And it was really cool to get that perspective here. What I was really impressed with everyone that contributed to this event, this wasn't a what can you do for me or what can this event do for me. I really feel like for sure the Australian people embraced this event. This is the Supercross they've always wanted. The fans showed up. Riders like Reed rallied because he knew how important this race was. Yariv, who let me drive his left-hand stick shift there, said there was a big night for him because yes, his team won titles, but more importantly, as an Australian, just to have a race of this scale was absolutely massive for him. They understood that. But what I liked was the visiting Americans, like Anderson, like Carmichael. Joey Savacci unfortunately got hurt, but he was game for whatever they needed him to do as far as promotion up until that moment. They all took the mantle as, hey, we are in this. We love this sport. We need to help this sport collectively as a group. Whatever you need me to do so we can make this race and this sport better. It was awesome. And it's easy to go down the road of complaining about things, especially as a media guy, and be like, they don't give us enough time. They should tell us more. They should be more forthcoming. I feel like today's riders are better to work with than ever. I do. And I think it's because most of the riders these days have a pretty good perspective. Their life is good. They've learned that as they're getting older, and there are more older riders now. If you just take the Villapoto Dungey Carmichael early retirement thing out, these older guys get it. They get it. And that is ultimately the feel that I have from this race. It was a group of people, the AME management folks that put this thing on together. I cannot tell you how much stuff they had stacked up with Triple Crown races and Super Poles and celebrities and the freestyle show, and it all went like clockwork. First time in this building, there was a lot of pressure to get it done right and not scare the building management. They nailed it. They did an excellent job, and they had buy-in all around, both from Australia and the visiting American riders. It's just a celebration, I feel, all weekend of, hey, we all love dirt bike racing, me included. It's gonna be difficult when I get in a plane tomorrow and I gotta have my wife and two small kids on a 14-hour flight to Los Angeles, and then I gotta fly 5 more hours to Charlotte. But dude, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. To get deep down with Carmichael and Reed and Brayton and talk to these guys who I've known for a long time, but really get their philosophies on life and find out how much perspective they've gained by being motorcycle racers and what great people they've become because of those lessons, because they stuck around long enough to learn those lessons. And even Jason Anderson, who was probably a bit of a wild child a few years ago, but suddenly he's become so mature that he's kind of changing the game with the team pride stuff. All those lessons that everyone is learning from each other because of the perspective of racing as they get older and working together. Man, it was like a darn pep rally. I enjoyed these 3 weeks immensely. Australia is great, New Zealand's great, they're beautiful, they have a lot to offer. But if I was just coming here on a 3-week holiday, it wouldn't have been worth it. It costs a lot of money to bring a family of 4 over here. I got paid to do this show, but it offsets my cost, not the other 3 in my family. What makes it worth it is learning all this life perspective. It was great. So, congrats to the folks at AME Management for putting together a great show. They need to be proud of themselves. And congrats to the riders for buying. We all have the same thing in common. Everybody loves this sport. And you could really feel it at these races, especially this one. And the fact that everybody just loves dirt bikes and is willing to do whatever it takes to make dirt bike racing good, that's the best feeling of all.